Hey y'all, it's Savannah and this is Savannah Says. So today I'm going to be talking about, basically it's like a wrap up, but for everything I've read up until this point being the month of May. I've read 22 books this year so far, and I didn't really start like reading anything for the year until like February hit. I'm just going to be talking about the books that I read briefly, the star rating that I gave it, how I felt about it. I'm not going to like discuss the plot of the book. I have ideas to like do series reviews later on after I read the whole series of whatever I'm reading. But until then, we are just going to do short little reviews. Let's begin. The first thing I read this year was A Game of Fate by Scarlett St. Clair, which is the first book in the Hades saga, which is the Hades POV version of the Hades and Persephone series by the same author. A lot going on. I read this one first, even though I realize you are supposed to read, I guess, the Persephone ones first, and the Hades ones are like what you read after, but I did not know that. This is the first one that came on my radar, so that's the one I read. I gave it 4 stars. I actually really liked this book. I thought it was like, it wasn't like, you know, like rewriting the wheel or anything with like the plot. It was pretty basic what the plot was. I literally wrote, the plot aside from the romance was thin, but seeing as how it's a romance at its core, I was fine with that. Literally, there's no plot. The setting of these books, if you don't know, they're in a place called like New Athens, which I am not even sure what that is supposed to be. It's like a metropolitan city basically called New Athens, and like all the gods are like celebrities and people worship them, but they know that they're gods. And people can get hired by the gods based on their talents or whatever, but Hades obviously is like the god that's like aloof. People are mostly afraid of him, but like zealots and whatever like love Hades because he's like the god of death, like they pray to him, all this other shit. This is the story of Hades and Persephone. He meets her, they fall in love. I mean, I thought it was an okay book. I gave it 4 stars. Obviously I liked it. I will say my one complaint is that once they like have the sex, it's like the same sex every time they have sex, so there's really, the steam meter is like, I'm gonna give it like 3 flames, right? Okay, so it's hot, but it's like the same thing over and over again. 4 stars. The second book I read was A Touch of Darkness from the Hades and Persephone series, which is from Persephone's point of view, same author. I gave this one 3 stars. This one had more plot than the Hades one, but I just liked Hades better as a character. So this one did have a plot because it's from Persephone's point of view when she's like in college. She wants to be a journalist. Her mom, Demeter, is like a psycho. She's like overprotective to the point of like being crazy. Persephone is not as interesting to read from as Hades because she's just like kind of whiny. She doesn't really have like anything going on for her. She knows that she's a goddess, but she hides it because she doesn't want to be like connected to her mother. She wants to have her own life. She wants to have her own legacy. She wants to be taken seriously as a journalist without like her mom's influence, which I can understand. I would say that my primary complaint is that like Persephone doesn't listen to anyone. She kind of, and not even like in a good way, not even like, oh, she's a bad bitch, like she doesn't listen to anyone, she does her own thing. No, to the point where like even when people tell her things from their own mouth, she ignores it and then like makes up some narrative in her mind about what they really meant. And she does that so much that she becomes annoying. And so that's also why I gave this 3 stars, because I was like, it's more plot. I already kind of like the series. Don't like Persephone though. So next, what I read was A Touch of Ruin, which is the second book in this Hades and Persephone series. This is where it gets interesting because I gave this 1 star and I literally was texting my friends and I was like, this has to be one of the worst books I've ever read. There was so much like, I don't even know if I can call it character assassination because I never really liked Persephone to begin with, but I've never read a book where the character's personality changes so drastically that like it's literally unbearable to read, right? Like Persephone in this second book has to be the worst protagonist that I've ever read. I can't even like go into detail about why I hate her. The whole story, she literally just goes through wrecking people's lives. Literally, she actually condemns someone's soul. That's how badly she like fucks up people's lives. And like Hades has to go behind her and fix all of the mess that she's making. She does not listen. She's told explicitly multiple times to like not do something because if she does this thing, it will literally like
I can't even like go into detail.
Cause so many problems on the other end, and she doesn't listen. She does it anyway. Then she acts stupid and confused when people are like, hey, why did you do that, sis? And she's like, because I wanted to be a bad bitch, I guess. I don't know. There's nothing more frustrating when female authors write female characters, but they're so fucking annoying that it's like, you know that they're trying to make them like a boss bitch. They're trying to make them like badass. Nobody can tell her what to do. She's her own girl, but they're really just dumb. And at that point, I had already bought the third one, but I never read it because she pissed me off so much that I was like, I need to step away from this. The second Hades book comes out soon, so I'll read that one. But Persephone Girls, no, I don't know about her. Next, what I read was Sadie by Courtney Summers. And I actually listened to this on audiobook, which was ironically the first audiobook I've ever listened to. And everyone has said like, oh, this is a great audio because the format of the story is like podcast. There's like a podcast part, and then it's like investigative journalism happening. It's like split narrative, right? So the guy doing the podcast is going on like this journey, but on the other end you have Sadie, who's like trying to solve this mystery. Sadie's sister goes missing and ends up murdered. That's pretty much all you need to know. That's basically the premise of this SVU. I gave this 3 stars, and really, like, it was okay. I think where it went wrong for me was that I was expecting like a hardcore like thriller. I wanted to be shook, and I was not shook. After a certain point of the book, it's just evident who the person is who committed this crime. Like, you know who it is, even though Sadie doesn't know who it is, and like the journalist doesn't know who it is, but you know who it is. The ending for me was just not definitive enough in a way that I could feel like satisfied with what I just listened to. So 3 stars. I will like obviously read another book from this author because I liked it. I had expectations for it that were not what it was, so it was okay. All right. She Drives Me Crazy was the next book I read. It was written by Kelly Quinlan. This is a sapphic contemporary romance. They're in high school, so it's a high school contemporary romance, which I gave this 2 stars. I think this was the beginning of me realizing that I like romance, but further into this video, you will see why this book got 2 stars. It's about this girl named Scotty, and she's like a loser, which means that everybody really likes her, and she's not really a loser, but in her mind, she thinks she's a loser. She cooks up this like fake dating scheme with the head cheerleader, whose name is Irene, to make her, Scotty's ex-girlfriend, jealous, which does not make sense because the ex-girlfriend clearly does not care about what she's doing at this point. And this is like the whole point of this book. The ex-girlfriend could not give 2 fucks about what Scotty's got going on. They're fake dating, which is already not really my thing. I gave it 2 stars. And the reason I gave it 2 stars is because like I did not like Scotty. One of those characters that thinks that everything that happens to her is like a singular experience, that she's the first and only person to go through this. Like, no one understands me. Blah, blah, blah. She was really whiny, didn't like her. I liked Irene more than I liked Scotty, and I wish that the book was told from like dual POVs. It was literally just Scotty the entire time, and I was like, I can't take it. By the time I finished, I was like, good riddance, 2 stars, moving on. The next book I read was Wolf Song by TJ Klune, which is the first book in the Green Creek series, which this series is like a paranormal romance series, male. They're werewolf shifters. So this is also the moment when I realized I like paranormal romance. Like, I kind of already knew that about myself, but I didn't want to like admit it. But then I read this book and I was like, damn, I actually kind of like that. I gave this 3 stars. And the reason I gave this 3 stars is because I had like equal parts of it that I liked and disliked, but I also had such like a crazy experience reading it that like months later, it's still in my mind. The premise of this is you're following this kid named Ox. I think he's 15 when the book starts, and this family moves in down the street from him and his mom. And Ox is kind of like a loner. It's hard for him to make friends. People call him special. Whatever you want that to mean, that's what people call him. And like that does manifest itself later in the story in like a positive way. But this family that moves in down the street, their name is the Bennetts, and they have this young son named Joe, and Joe and Ox sort of form like a connection. It's kind of, not even kind of, it's basically imprinting. It's imprinting, and it's kind of weird, which is one of the issues I have with it, just because it's like an age gap thing. Ox is 15 when they meet, and Joe is like 10 or 11, which to me, why is he 10? You could have made like him 13. You could have made any of this different than that, but whatever, he's 10. That was one of the main issues I have with it. And it's pretty much like a coming of age story, I would say, but there's also romance and imprinting and werewolves. I gave it 3 stars. I thought this book was really erotic in a good way. Because they're wolves, everyone's always touching, even if it's not sexual. And this is the first male book I ever read. And I honestly was like, damn, am I scandalized? Like, am I clutching my pearls? Like, me? Like, I'm scandalized by this. I have read so much fanfic in my life. I have read so many like smutty stories. Like, I'm no stranger to reading sex in printed media, but this book was good. Okay, I recommend you read this. I plan on talking about all of them once I read all of them and like have detailed like discussion about it, but this was a good book. Even though I gave it 3 stars, 3 stars basically just means that like I liked it enough to keep reading, and sometimes it means I liked it but there's like equal things about it that I disliked. So that's my rating for that. Next, I read Unhinged, which is the first book in the Necessary Evil series by Only James, and this is also a male romance series. I would say this is probably dark romance though. Yeah, first book in a series. I gave this 2 stars. The premise of this is that you have this guy named Adam, and Adam was adopted by this man named Dr. Mulaney, whose first name is escaping me. And basically Mulaney is like a psychiatrist, I think. Whenever, I guess, a case pops up of like a real troubled child, he like goes to this place and like adopts these kids, and he has raised them all to be serial killers, but they only kill bad people. They're serial killers. It's like a psycho romance. Like, I mean, he's a psychopath, right? They use the psychopath word a lot. And Adam falls in love with this guy named Noah, and Noah is the child of one of the men that Adam has killed. It's not like an age gap thing. They're like moderately around the same age. I gave this 2 stars though because I thought, first of all, I thought it was too short. I kind of liked the plot of this. Like, the plot is like, it's like Law and Order, but not SVU. Actually, no, it is SVU. It is another SVU episode. I just thought it was really short. I think it was less than 300 pages. Let me see. What was it? Oh, okay. It was 306 pages according to Goodreads. But I thought that this book could have definitely used another 100 pages. Like, literally in the second chapter, these men are making out. And so it was like just so insta-love that we needed to have some kind of like, they needed to build the relationship or something. Like, on either end of the book, they needed more time with the relationship, and they also needed more time solving the crime at the end. It was just like too short, and the insta love was so bad to me that even like the characters in the book were commenting on it, because they were like, damn, Adam, like, you just met him, like, you're already in love. Insta love is not a trope that I like, neither is fake dating, so we see a theme here, but I liked it enough that I am gonna read the next one. I have the next one downloaded to my Kindle app. I just haven't read it yet. The second one seems promising though, so again, I'll talk about them all when I read them all. I don't know how many there's gonna be. I think there's 7 brothers, and I think the 5th one just came out, so we'll see. All right, next, I read a book called Destino by Sienna Minks, and it is an interracial mafia romance. It's the first in a series called Battaglia Mafia, and I gave this 3 stars. I mean, if you've ever read a mafia romance, that's basically what this was. It's about this woman named Mira, and she is a fashion designer, and she goes to Italy to like move her line, I guess, to make like a European branch of her line or whatever. Her best friend is like her manager, and they get involved with like this mafia, and Giovanni's like the head of the mafia, and they fall in love. I gave this 3 stars though because Mira was literally the most annoying character. I clearly say this a lot. She was less annoying than Persephone, but they had the same, like, everything people say doesn't mean anything, because in my mind, I'm gonna make up my own narrative, and like that shit continued for so long. It almost was like, why does he want to be with her? Why does he want to be with her? She has not given him a reason to trust her. She's not giving him a reason to love her. She spends a lot of the book like talking about her ex. I started the second one the moment I finished this one after I gave it 3 stars because I was like, okay, it ends kind of crazy. Like, you're like, damn, how are they gonna figure this out? Like, there's like a fake murder, there's like it's like actually stuff happens. Like, this book was almost 500 pages long, so like there is a plot. Even if I didn't like all of it, there is a plot. But the second one is not good, so I won't be reading any more of these, but this one was okay. If you just want to read an okay mafia romance, I recommend this one. Next, what I read was Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I think at this point, everyone kind of knows what's going on with this. I gave this 5 stars, the first 5-star of the year. Jesus, like, it, long time coming. If you don't know what this is basically an urban fantasy with fae. And you're following this girl named Bryce who is a half fae, and she is living in this, like, again, urban fantasy type of city, and there's a murder mystery plot. And that's really all I can say about this without like giving away anything. So yeah, 5 stars. I highly recommend. I have not read the second one yet, but I've heard mixed things. This one was good. I don't know if I was just like in my feelings, but this book made me cry at one point. Like, my eyes were getting teary. Like, this book is good. So 5 stars. She did what she needed to do with this. Next, what I read, which is the book that started my downfall for the rest of the month of April. These books started in February, like I said earlier. So at this point, we're in April. I started this book on April 16th, according to my Goodreads. After Crescent City, I had to take a break, but after this, I was like, okay, great. I read Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, and at this point, we all know what Zodiac Academy is. It's all over TikTok, it's all over YouTube, it's all over Twitter. It is a fantasy romance. I'm gonna say fantasy romance with fae. There's like shifters, there's vampires. It's basically like every paranormal thing except witches that you can think of is in this book. But the first book, if you didn't know, is actually not a romance. Like, when I read this, all I knew about it was that there was 2 twins. It has something to do with the zodiac. They're obviously Gemini because they're twins, and because I knew that they were fae, I knew there was gonna be magic involved. I didn't know what kind of magic, and that's all that I knew. I knew that it was a fantasy romance involving fae and zodiac of some kind. I will say that if you're going to read the first book, just know that there's no romance. There's no romance. It's aromantic. There's no romance in this book. It is literally just a straight bully. It's a bully story, but you can tell that some of the characters are meant to be together eventually. And that sounds so crazy, and I know that people don't like it, but like, by the end of the first book, I was so hooked that I was like, I have to keep reading these. And they're on Kindle Unlimited and they're free. So like, I agree with everyone who says by like the middle of the second book, and definitely by the third book, it's like, at that, you're so invested. It's like the plot is insane, and I think it's good. But the first one I gave 3 stars. Yeah, the first one I gave 3 stars, and I was like, okay, I see where this is going. I'm kind of into it. It was real crazy. I was not expecting what I read. So everything after this will literally just be me reading Zodiac Academy. So I read the second book, which is called Ruthless Fae. I gave that 3 stars. I am planning to do like a whole Zodiac Academy, like a video talking about the first book in depth for people who like just want to read the first one or want to know about that. And then when the 8th one comes out in December, apparently, I want to like reread them and do like a full like what's happening with Zodiac Academy type thing, where I go through like the plot and all of this like with spoilers and stuff. So I can't really talk about these without like giving away the plot, because they're literally direct continuations. So Ruthless Fae, I gave 3 stars. The Reckoning, which is book 3, I gave 4 stars. And this was the most like, this was like the corniest book to me, but also it made me laugh out loud, and I thought it was like entertaining. These books were just entertaining to read, so this is the first 4-star one for me. Shadow Princess is the 4th book, and I gave that 3 stars. Cursed Fates is the 5th book, and I gave that 3 stars. Fated Throne is the 6th book, and I gave that 3 stars. And then the 7th book is called Heartless Sky, and I finished that at the beginning of this month, and I gave that 4 stars. And I would just say I recommend you read these books. I know people say they're bad, and like, yeah, it's not like the best written story ever. It's Kindle Unlimited. Like, not to say that you can't get quality writing on Kindle Unlimited, but like, These books definitely need an editor. They're all really, really long, but if you just want something that's fun to read and just like mindless, I would recommend you read this. You kind of have to push through the first one, which I'm not selling it very well, but like I promise you, it gets to the point where you're so invested in the lives of these characters that you're just like, damn, like I have to know what happens. Like I was up at night, I was at work reading these damn books. Like I was texting people about these books. I let my friend borrow the one book. I forced my sister to read them. Like they're good. They're good. Just trust me, they're good. And the last thing I read of the month of April was Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. And this is the first, and I guess like a standalone series. I don't know what it's called. I think the series is called Written in the Stars or something. This is also a sapphic contemporary romance. And I gave this 2 stars. And this was the moment that I realized that like contemporary romance is not for me. It's not my genre. Every contemporary romance I've ever read, I've given 1 to 2 stars. Like I never like them. And the thing is that like I understand that contemporary romance is like a broad tag, but when there's no subgenre attached to it, like contemporary romance but they're in school, contemporary romance but it's a sports romance, contemporary romance where someone's a billionaire, like there has to be a subgenre tacked on to like the contemporary part of it, because when the genre is literally just contemporary romance, I never like them. And whenever the covers look like this, I never like them. And I really don't know why that is. It's just not for me. I like the stakes in the books that I read to be really high, even if it's ludicrous. It just needs to be bonkers, right? So wasn't my fave. I gave it 2 stars. It's about this girl named Ellie. She basically runs like an astrology BuzzFeed like website. And she meets this girl named Darcy. I'm saying girl, but they're women. They're in their like mid-20s, late 20s. They're like grown women. They meet. Elle's like the opposite of Darcy. Darcy's like uptight. She doesn't share her emotions, blah, blah, blah. Elle's like free, colorful. She's like into like all the things, and they fall in love, but they're fake dating. And I clearly hate fake dating. And I don't know why I read this, because I don't know why I like, is the synopsis of this fake dating? Let me look it up. Damn, the plot of this literally says on Goodreads, like the synopsis literally says they fake date. I don't know why I would read this, because I don't like fake dating. I don't know why I even put myself through that just to give it 2 stars. Like, what? I just didn't care. I thought it was bland. If you thought it was cute, I'm happy for you. Not really my thing. Not my thing. So with that, I'm done. That's everything I have read up until this point. I will try to do a wrap up every month, and if it ever gets to a point where I don't, it'll be like one of these things again. So yeah, that's all for now, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.